All right, folks, good morning. It is 11:03 a.m. and today is April 12th, 2024, and this is Coffee with Community Services, Alta California Regional Center's weekly service provider meeting. We have, as usual, we're going to go over our agenda and then do introduction of our staff, and then we'll jump into it. So for our agenda today, we have our sign of the week and Deaf Culture 101 discussion, and we're going to go over the DSP stipends. We're going to talk about the quality we're going to talk about the quality incentive program for early start. And we're going to be discussing the information that was shared about the new service provider directory that the department has. We're going to be discussing the master plan for developmental services. We're going to get an HCBS update from Scott Barr as our new numbers came out. We are going to talk briefly about coordinated career pathways, kind of a plug for our upcoming training that we have. Pride is going to give a spotlight as well. We have our upcoming job fair, and we also have our LPA summit that are coming up shortly in the next couple of weeks. And so talk about those. And we've got some stuff from the DDS events calendar, Alta events calendar. Helen has an update for in-home respite providers on some changes to our respite procedures, and we kind of talked about it during our provider advisory committee meeting, but Michelle's going to talk a little bit about possibly some changes to day and employment services procedures as well, and then anything else that we kind of had from the PAC meeting. So for today, on for our staff that are here, I see Christine from Community Services. Good morning, and I see Melinda on, who's going to start off our agenda after introductions. And I see Marty on. Good morning, Marty, and our manager, Michelle, and our director of intake and clinical services, Camelia. Good morning. And our QA and compliance manager, Scott, is on there, and Carly, our employment specialist as well, and our housing specialist, Rhonda. Good morning. And from community services, we have Jessica on too. Good morning, Jessica, and Dee Dee, and Beverly, and Michael. And Michael and Melinda both did a fantastic job presenting at our provider advisory committee meeting yesterday. And so they got to do it in person and got to meet some of you folks. So good morning to Michael as well. And good morning to Helen. I see you on here too, and one of our managers and our lead community services specialist, Jason, is on, and I see Alicia and Tom as well, and my assistant Zach is on. So good morning, folks. And let's see, Leah is on. Good morning, Leah. Good to see you this morning, and Ethan as well. Hey, Ethan. And Belinda is on here, the person that keeps everything moving for our regional center. And Adriana and Shauna are on here as well. Good morning from our community services department. And I'm sure we'll have more folks on there. I'm fairly certain that that's Hubert and not Herman that I see there on the screen as well. Good morning. All right. So if I can throw it over to Melinda first to do our uh, first section, and then maybe we'll do Pride right after that. And so Medi, if you could be ready right after Melinda is done, and we'll throw it to you for the service provider spotlight right after our sign of the week. So I will throw it over to Melinda.
All right. Hello. Thank you. Give me one moment. Let me spotlight myself. Okay. So just to make you all aware, I use total communication, which sometimes means that my hands drop for communicating. So if that happens, that's why I've asked the interpreters to continue signing for everyone who needs the support for signing, because that's not fair if my hands just drop. So anyways, today we will be discussing the word support, SUPPORT, support. And how you make that sign is you're going to make, you're going to have two S hand shapes. Remember that we discussed the alphabet when you guys first learned with me. So you're going to have two S shapes, which is your fist with your thumb crossed in front. And then you will take your dominant hand and you're going to put that underneath. So for me, it's my right. You're going to put that underneath your non-dominant hand, and it's going to be stacked on top. And then you're going to push up about 1 inch, and that's support. So it's S, S, under for me with my right hand, and you push up. If you are left-handed, I did not forget you. For left hand, you put your left hand underneath, and you're going to do the same motion. You're just going to go the opposite direction. It's the same thing. Support we support our clients in many ways. We support them with a lot of different things, a lot of variations. And it's important for us to remember that our clients need different kinds of support. So today I'm going to be discussing more of how to use support through a kind of sign called directional signs. Directional signs mean that there's a lot of signs in sign language that, like support, in my video I showed support you, and then I showed support me. Supporting you is you push straight forward. Support me, you push straight back. Okay, so I support you, you support me, and then even you can talk about two other people, they support them. And it's directional. There's a lot of signs like that. And it's important to know that that happens in sign language. And it's not saying that they're missing a word. It's not saying that they don't know what they're signing. It's just that's how ASL is. It's very directional. It's very body language focused. Okay. And what's important to know about that is you can learn it from just observing and watching other people's signs. So, for an example, if you're here in the office, you can see me. If you see me and Michael talk and we're chatting with each other, you might be able to see that we're using directional signs. If you see me talking about support, you will not see me usually say, I support you. I did that in the video that I will be popping the flyer in the chat for everyone to copy for themselves. I did that in the YouTube video because I wanted to show you the sentence. It's I support you. But really, support you, you'll see in that video, is in upper caps. And that's because the uppercase is what we call glossing in ASL. That is the signed word, the vocabulary word. So support you, support me. I, you don't use. You don't really need to use. It's just directional. And you'll see that with like a sign called money. So I give you money, you give me money. And there's a lot of signs like that. For me, sign language is supportive because, like I said when I started, I use total communication. And that just means that I voice and sign at the same time. Total communication is not ASL. ASL has its own grammar structure and its own rules. I use those rules and grammar structure, yes, when I sign, but I don't do them both at the same time. I struggle sometimes because the brain is in a conflict. My brain processes, and then my signs happen, and it clashes. And that's why sometimes my hands drop. And we have clients that do the same thing. So you might notice a client who needs support with sign. They might be signing with you, and they may not advocate and ask for an interpreter because they're just used to signing. I started that way when I started my journey. But they have to learn and recognize that, yeah, they can use an interpreter, and an interpreter can be successful and can promote inclusion for them. Also, it's good to know that when you are signing with someone who is deaf or hard of hearing, you will see a variety of signs that have different impacts from different cultures. And it's also important for us just to be able to be aware of that support. So again, let's do support again. If you're a left-handed person, I'll start with that one first. S, S, your dominant hand underneath, non-dominant up top, and you're going to push up. We're going to practice support you, support me. So support you is from your body out. I support you. And if you go in, you support me. Okay? And I'll flip hand because I do both. Again, if you're right hand dominant, I support you, you support me. So thank you for learning the sign of the week today. And I'm going to now upload the document in the chat.
Thank you very much for that. That was excellent. And again, I just want to commend you both as well for your in-person presentation to our provider advisory committee yesterday. Again, it's nice to be able to meet folks in person. And so having Michael there, having Melinda at the meeting was very nice in person, even though you certainly get to see them here too. So appreciate that. It is kind of nice because it is a little, it's a little bit of a workload every week putting out a little presentation and getting YouTube videos together. So it is also nice to have more than one person that's responsible for it on our staff as well. So appreciate all of everyone's work in making this available for all of our service providers. And we have it all on YouTube as well. So thank you. All right, I'll jump in the chat real quick, and then I think I'm going to throw it over to Medi next. All right, Medi, you're up next.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody. My name is Megan Lozano. I'm with Pride Industries. I'm the director of Pride Industries. I manage, supervise adult day programs, Taylor day programs, ILS services, and behavior support programs. And I also have case managers within my group. So I wanted to talk to you guys about something real fun that we're going to be doing, and I wanted to invite you guys to our event. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to put this on the chat. But I wanted to let you guys know that.
And real quick, Medi, if you could lean forward into your microphone as close as possible, that would probably be a little helpful for us too.
Are you guys able to hear me now? A little bit better?
Yeah, a little bit better. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I wanted to talk to you, and I'll speak a little bit louder. So I wanted to talk to you guys about an event. We're having an open house / celebration at Pride Industries. We're going to have it at 3 different events, 3 different locations. We're going to have one May 1st in our Auburn Pride, and I'll upload these flyers up on the chat so that you guys have access to those. We would like to invite the regional center. If somebody from the regional center would like to come present. We're inviting the DOR. We're inviting a few people so that they can come and share services with the participants that we currently serve. We're also inviting several schools so that transitions age students so that they can come and be aware of different services that Pride provides, but also services that are out in the community that they can have access to. So we're going to have fun prizes, games, some snacks, drinks, so everybody can come and have some snacks and stuff. So our first event is going to be May 1st. It's going to be from 10 to 3 at our Auburn location. Our second event is going to be May 2nd at our Roseville campus. And that's going to be from 1 to 4. And our third event is going to be May 9th. And that's going to be at our Career Hub. And that's going to be from 3 to 6. That one's a little later in the evening. So, if you guys want to come, represent, encourage individuals that you have on your caseloads, or, if you want to connect us with other individuals that you feel may be interested in participating in this event, let me know. I'm going to put my information on the chat as well. So if anybody has any questions, they can reach out to me. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for that, Medi. And if folks have not had an opportunity to, and you're going to drop that into the chat so folks have that flyer, but if folks haven't had an opportunity to see like the new, was it the Career Center? Is that what you guys call it? If you haven't had an opportunity to see that new office too, like it's just a great, as our service providers expand, as they, create new opportunities for our clients. And also as we have more and more staff at our regional center, it's just nice to be refreshed on what's available out there. And that's why we want to do these spotlights. And it's also, the idea of these spotlights too is that we've got folks that run all kinds of different types of programs that do different types of things. And so it's just, again, a nice opportunity for you to know what's out there as well. And then anytime you want to invite us over to events and things like that, like we certainly want to take advantage of that. So I will ask Zach to take a look at my calendar, and I know Carly can as well, and see how we can make sure that we've got, myself or Michelle Duchesne, and I know I saw Jennifer Bloom, I think, on here, and Michelle as well. So if we've got, either other EMT members or our ADs or our managers that might be interested in coming out there, I think it will be a great educational opportunity for folks. So thank you for sending that out. Oh, hey, Melinda, can I have you plug your survey real quick since it's in the chat too?
Yes, actually, I was just doing that. Yes. So just give me one moment. Here we go. And it is in the chat.
Cool. And so this is go ahead, and you want to share just what it is or just a quick reminder?
Sure. Please give us your feedback, your questions, your comments, your feedback for the sign of the week. Michael and I, for us, in order to plan, we really want to plan this focused on our audience. So if our audience needs specific words, if they want to know specific signs, if they want to know whatever it is, we've only had 12 responses. So I see like 80 of us sometimes in these chats. If we could please join and please answer, even if you've done it before, that's fine. You can do it again because our thoughts change, and that's fine. I want to know what you're thinking and what you want to learn. And I know Michael does too.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. I now want to throw it over to Michelle Duchesne, who can give us. Okay, so Medi's got that in the chat. So everyone, make time to
Oh,
jump in the chat and get
sorry,
the
John.
Pride. Sorry, no, it's fine. I was just gonna say, everyone, take some time to grab that Pride flyer and see if you can make that into your schedule. And I will throw it to you, Michelle. Go ahead.
John, can you see the email?
It looks perfect.
Okay, so I have a couple groups of numbers here to throw at you guys again. So we have 80 days remaining for the DSP stipend program. And I was looking, I know we go over these numbers, but if you look right here on the screen, I wanted to just kind of note from September where we were at 5,066 and where we are now. So we've gone 50,000 higher than we started in September. So that's a huge number, and just congrats to you guys and good work to our providers. Because I haven't looked at that before as far as our growth there. And I wanted to, so we are at currently, last week, it was a 7.7% growth. We are at 10,316 for Alta, and we look to be about 800 trainings higher than any other regional center, about 700 there. So good work, and we'll continue to promote this. I have about 4 of my team members that will be at the DICE job fair, and I know that will be shared a little bit later on in our presentation. So we will be there. We will have a booth set up or table to kind of promote this as well.
Any questions about that, folks? Again, I talked to Robin LeMay this morning, and I just want to give our staff a lot of credit for processing all of these payments for all of your DSPs that have taken advantage of the training. But I would really love it if we could just keep doing a push to get as many more folks trained in the next 80 days as possible. Again, though we have surpassed, I think what my hopes were as far as getting the folks trained. There's a lot of opportunities here to still put money in the pockets of DSPs, and for us to be able to have opportunities to get better trained individuals to support our clients. So we're going to put out another mailing, I think, to all of our providers, encouraging them to do this. And as we said, we're going to be again trying to promote it at our upcoming events. I really appreciate our staff that have been processing all of these that have come through. And I can't say enough again about you as service providers who have just been making this available to your DSPs and ensuring that we get the best workforce that we possibly can. So thank you guys very much for that. All right. I'm going to go over the quality incentive information for early start service providers, which there may be like, I don't know. I don't know if we got any in here or not today. We're going to find out, right, Jennifer Bloom, right, Helen? We'll see if we've got any folks in here. I did send this to my staff this morning as well. Let's see. Sorry, there is ASL options for the trainings. I want to go back to the training stipend because there was a question about that in the chat. So the question was, is the DSP stipend training set up for deaf, hard of hearing employees as well? There's ASL sessions, and there's also Spanish as well, right, Michelle? Sure.
Yeah, I believe that there's closed captioning on those videos as well. And that's something I can double check.
Yeah, because I know Step put their folks through, to my knowledge. And if anyone from Step is on right now, they can talk about how they put their staff through. But I believe that there's no issues because there is a specific ASL and Spanish modules for the DSP stipend trainings. Okay, so I wanted to share I'm going to share my screen real quickly because this is kind of cool the way this is set up, and I am learning all about it, and I want to share it with folks. And we'll be sharing this correspondence with our service providers so that they are aware of it, because this seems like one of those, what is that term that we used to say, set it and forget it? Is that for like a rotisserie chicken? But this seems like kind of a similar type of thing when it comes to this stipend program. And so let's see. I got to make sure my screen is sharing. Are you guys seeing DDS's directive right there? All right, perfect. Thank you. So this is the new quality incentive program outline for early start service providers. And it appears, and Jennifer, have you been involved in any of these discussions previously, Jennifer?
I was on a work group about a year ago, and there is a regional center meeting on Wednesday to learn more.
Yes.
And I understand that there's a provider meeting coming up in May. So as we say,
Yeah.
more to come. But I need to confess, I have not read all of these attachments yet. So I appreciate this overview right now.
Yeah, I will give just kind of a simple overview, which is in essence, they have determined that the quality incentives for the early start providers are going to be tied to how quickly the early start services begin. And the term for this is going to begin January 1st of 2024 through December 31st of 2024. There's no action required by service providers because DDS has the information very clearly about the when authorizations were made and when the first billing occurred for those authorizations. And so since the department already has that information, they have created an incentive system that in essence will allow you to get a monetary payment if you start your early start services closer to when that referral is made. And so in here, there is, and all of those calculations are going to be done by the department. It is not something that service providers are going to be required to calculate. Our dear friends Raven and Belinda are not going to be having to go through all of this to determine whether or not the billing qualifies because they, again, have the authorization information and they have the billing information. And I believe that is how they're planning on making that. Eric, I see your hand. Do you want to comment on that a little bit?
So I am a member of the QIP work group, but I was
nice, perfect.
But I was not in the early intervention group because early intervention typically does not include respite, but respite has now been added to in one of those attachments, which by the way, I'm trying to find all of these on DDS's website because I was sent the flyers, but I have all of them, but I don't see them on the website. It's not available on the website.
Not yet.
Yeah. No. Okay. So this is a problem.
Came out.
So just to be clear,
okay. We get stuff posted all kinds of different times. It's all good.
I know. So I'll try to keep this brief, but to be clear, there's one of the, I think it's enclosure C includes the service codes. So it's not just the service codes that you think of as early intervention. It includes 862 respite, for example, which is the most widely utilized service in the regional center system. So the other thing is that there have been work groups working on metrics. So every service is going to get metrics. That's going to be tied to your payment structure, how much you're going to get to bill. Remember, you're only ever guaranteed 90% of your rate study rate. The last 10% is determined by your qualifications and payments under the quality incentive program. So these are incentives for early intervention, but it's really about respite. We just went over, this just came out yesterday. We just went over this. This did not go over well. And I have serious concerns and I've raised serious concerns. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to make the incentive for this service tied to how quickly services are initiated. And that seems to be based on the date that the billing team authorizes the authorization. And you can see in order to get your full payment, then you need to start services within 10 days. And DDS did not discuss this prior to reaching out. So folks that were in those work groups were like, this is very different from what we've discussed. And their thought was, hey, well, we have all the data. We can do this. Luckily, this is something we can do for you guys. We don't really need much input. But there's a lot of concern about, number one, we don't really control when that authorization comes in. And we don't necessarily even always get that authorization through the 21 regional centers all at the same time. Sometimes authorizations are given after we're saying, yes, we're willing to provide services. Sometimes we just get, and I'm not talking about Alta, remember there's 21 regional centers. We often get authorizations prior to really understanding or engaging with that individual. And we have to do intakes and understanding how that service is going. I think intakes, let's say for speech, are going to be very different from respite. And early intervention, these are often services that are being initiated for the first time for a family. So their level of comfortability with the regional center, understanding of the system, and all those things really vary. So the idea that suddenly you're going to get services started within 10 days, we raised significant concerns and will continue to. We're kind of having an emergency meeting about this one. But two things that I think are important. We questioned, why would you make this as a metric? And they shared data that they calculated from the regional centers that showed 90% of services are started within 30 days. And more than 60, I think, are started in 10 days. So like, hey, you guys are doing great complying already. And I went, I've never seen that data. I don't think that data is right. I really question that 90% of services, say for early start, are initiated within 30 days and more than 60 are initiated in 10 days from the date the billing teams issue it. So we're trying to get information because we're really concerned that they're looking at bad data and how this would work. And if you're going, well, geez, I don't provide respite and I don't provide early intervention services. If you look at this, the whole point this came out of because they wanted to have a quality and metric about timely start of service and which service almost every service could qualify for that metric. So big concerns there. I don't want to take the whole meeting. I'm concerned the California Respite Association is calling a meeting on Monday to talk about this because this just got pushed out and this could be something we're stuck with for a very long time. And if you think from the billing accounting of a regional center issuing an authorization and you getting 10 days to start services is a reasonable metric, then great. But a lot of us have concerns about that. And I think if we don't address it now, it could get implemented in other areas as well.
Eric, hi, Jennifer can probably support me in this. Early start is different because their services are time sensitive. Everything is within 45 days. And I know that we get audited by the department almost every year on how we do with the early start services. And so encouraging our providers, this is constant a topic that we have with the vendor forum, is encouraging our providers to accept referrals and provide services right away, because those babies, they age out of the system at 3.
It made total sense when we, in hypotheticals, like for early intervention, what's key to early intervention, right? Early intervention. It's in the name.
Yes.
So that made sense as an idea. And we know that there's, whether it's intake timelines or other type, makes total sense. But number one, respite is not normally early intervention. That's not an early intervention service, number one.
That's true.
But number two, there's other things that are going in. We're talking about speech and some of these other things. There's presumed eligibility. There's a lot of things to just boil it down to start services within 10 days of the regional center issuing an auth, not when I receive it, not when I've accepted a referral. There's just a lot that just got thrown in yesterday, hours before the meeting that we hadn't had time to discuss. So I totally agree. And I would say for early intervention, absolutely in general, but then looking the devil's in the details here. And then for people to realize, a lot of people I stop paying attention when it's early intervention because I don't do early intervention. But it also includes respite, which is the number one utilized services by regional centers. So small change, big impact. And I don't think respite, for example, Helen, what you just talked about with early intervention, you guys would put in the same category, right? About that timely service and making sure that, professional services are put in within 10 days, all that kind of stuff. Respite's a different service. Not saying we don't want to do it fast. Let's have a goal. I mean, I'm fine with that. But yeah, there's some concerns here, John. And if anybody's engaged in that, I'll put my email in. And I just encourage regionals and other folks to be really aware of that because we're concerned about where that road leads.
The reason why I had immediately jumped over to Jennifer Bloom is because I think, Jennifer, you still oversee the ARC early intervention group, don't you?
I do.
Aren't you that person?
Yes.
So she is the person for the state of California for the regional centers that is kind of that subject matter expert in these types of things. So that's why I was kind of curious, because I immediately thought the same thing when it came out. Is this a precursor of things to come? And then how much was this specifically discussed before it got approved yesterday and then sent out to everyone? Because we have public meetings scheduled for both regional centers and vendors. And so anyways, Jennifer, that's why I wanted to talk about it today, because I know it just came out, but we're going to have public meetings about it. And I want folks to be aware, because some of this quality incentive stuff might start coming real quick over the next few months here.
There's going to be a provider and community webinar on May 1st. And I don't have any details, but I will get those at the meeting that I attend on Wednesday at 8 a.m. And, in those work groups, there were a lot of concerns about timelines and who's going to track this, and then complaints. Well, service coordinators, what if they take their time in submitting the authorization? And so, I had shared at the time to the group that from the regional center perspective, once this guidance is issued, that, it will involve some training on the part of our service coordinators and maybe, discussions with our accounting team and how we want to process this, because we wouldn't want a provider not to qualify for the incentive based on an internal process that we have. And Helen, you're absolutely right. We are audited and monitored. Our review is happening right now. DDS was here all day on Tuesday and most of Wednesday. So, we are in the midst of it now, and that's always at the forefront. Timely service, timely service. So I'll share more.
I would just say many of you know how to reach out to Jennifer Bloom, and for those of you that feel concerned about this, impacted, she is going to be someone that is going to be influential in some of these discussions for moving forward. So you can reach out to her, jbloom@alterregional.org, if you need to. But we do need to excuse her, and I think Michelle and the IADs probably, and everyone else, right? You guys have another meeting.
Thank you, John. Yes. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, folks. Again, this just popped yesterday, and then we knew because Dr. Julie Beetle Brown was at at our PAC meeting and letting us know that quality incentive meeting was going to be happening, and that there was going to be, we knew that some of these things were going to be coming out. So appreciate those of you that do participate in these meetings and are lending your voices, because it supports so many service providers that have similar concerns that you do. So, alrighty. That is the quality incentive program for early. Obviously, more to come with that, and we'll be sending out the specific invites to the service provider service codes that are impacted for that as well. All right, I'm going to now jump over to DDS's website, and I want to share some additional information related to the service provider directory. So I'm going to share my screen, and this is not dissimilar to our discussion that we had yesterday at our provider advisory committee. So I appreciate those of you that attend both of those. We get into things sometimes a little bit more in depth in here, but in this particular case, just want to share that this information is available on the front page of DDS's website related to the online provider directory project. I just had Jennifer and them leave, but our executive management team does not appear to have gotten a notification about this, but there was correspondence that came out from the kind of like our MailChimp server that we use. There was something that came out from Constant Connect, if you are subscribed to that. So I don't know if any of you as service providers received anything from the provider directory yet. I do see there's the provider directory email distribution list. I am going to sign up on that because I am curious what they are going to be sending out. And so I would just encourage you, and if you want to be part of it, I'd be interested in signing up if I was you as a service provider. If you want to know more about it, if DDS is going to spend the money to develop a logo for this thing, it's going to happen, folks. And so we're going to have a statewide service provider directory at some point. The initial phase of rollout here is going to be getting initial access to the directory, but this will be a place where all the vendors statewide will be in one place, and the Department of Developmental Services has designs that this will eventually be the way in which vendorizations happen, possibly at regional centers as well, is through this provider directory portal that they are developing. That part is to be developed, but at least for right now, we know that there are frequently asked questions that have been put out for our service providers that outline what the responsibilities are going to be. We still don't know when the first emails are going to go out to providers, but the specific responsibilities that you as providers are going to have to do related to this are twofold in phase one. And like I did yesterday, I'm literally going to read them and make sure that we all have a comprehension about what the initial expectations are for this. And I'm sure DDS will do webinars for it and everything else, along with all the other webinars that are going to occur between now and the end of the fiscal year. But right now, service providers will be sent an email invitation, which to my understanding, for the providers that were at the Provider Advisory Committee meeting yesterday, no one had received one yet. Service providers will be sent an email invitation to register for the provider directory. Following registration, service provider owners will review pre-populated data from existing DDS systems and approve or submit edits to their data. Service providers will work with regional centers to complete the validation process for major changes. So that's number one. So that is the first step of this, is that you will be sent an email invitation to register for the provider directory. Now, I was not at the quality incentive meeting yesterday. For anyone that was at the quality incentive meeting yesterday, did the provider directory come up at all as a component of the quality incentives? And can we get an update about that?
Yes, I was writing this down because I was going to send it regarding to the PAC. So a couple things. I don't have a lot, but the first question is there a start date that they're planning for providers that they were willing to try. They said, no, they do not have a start date. Soon would be good. But this invitation, these letters of not, there's not a date that's scheduled for this to be started, number one. Number two, we had a question about how it's going to work. So a lot of providers provide more than one service, you know, like for UCP, right? So are we going to be vendoring for every program individually in the system? And are we going to have to do that for every vendor number we have? Or is it going to be like the DSP workforce survey, which we're also super encouraging of, where they are trying to do it by your employee identification or your tax ID number, and you're able to say UCP of Sacramento, and we attach or add all of our, you know, map our programs to that. So they said it would be the second, that there would be, you'd register as your primary organization, you'd be able to add programs underneath it.
So your TIN?
TIN?
Is it under like your, is under your tax ID number and then any?
Yeah, it'd be your tax ID number, your employee identification number is what they're saying. So of course there's going to be, it's not going to do it automatically necessarily. So that you'll have to go in and the first setup is going to be a little bit more involved, but it'll be similar in concept. So it'll be under your tax ID number, your TIN or your EIN, your employee identification number. You'll be able to add all your vendor programs. So you'll have one portal, so to speak. So they said that's already in the system. That's how they're building the system. I also asked, because in their directive, there's things we didn't like about, like, this does not communicate. Do you have to still contact regional centers? It doesn't update any other system. So this is supposed to integrate, you will know what this is, John, with CERN. And they said it's really an extension of CERN. Like, it's really like a development of that portal or that system already. So it will integrate with certain systems, but in terms of how much it'll integrate with other systems, or when those integrations would start, or how much it would integrate, all of that was to be determined, because we did talk about the fact of having to update multiple systems, and couldn't these systems talk to one another, things like that. And I think that's it. I think those are all the things I wrote.
Okay, I was trying to share my screen real quickly to show the CERMS stuff. And so let me just clarify for folks what that is. That is the Consumer Electronic Record Management System that the state of California is developing at some, you know, we're rolling into it. It's going to be the big statewide replacement. For some regional centers use SanDisk, others use virtual charts, but it's going to replace that thing.
So they're basically saying the portal is really an extension of CERMS. It's not a new, they're saying it's almost coming from that versus something that's going to integrate to it. So if that, whatever that means, I don't know.
I think the idea is that this is kind of leading CERMS, and then but they're going to make sure that they integrate. And so on our end, and what Eric is specifically talking to is the kind of, all right, are we now seeing the FAQs on my screen? Okay, so what Eric is specifically talking about is this highlighted thing that caused us a little bit of grief yesterday during our pack when we kind of all talked about it, which is that DDS is requiring you to do this, but you still have your current regional center requirements to report to us directly any of your changes that you make to any of your vendorizations. Like, that's still a requirement for some of you under contracts. It's definitely under in your program designs, vendor agreements, to provide the information directly to us. So in essence, DDS at this point, because they are putting this ahead of the development of one system for the state of California, it necessitates providers, when this happens, if you do want to make a change, not only do you have to send it in to the provider directory that way, but you will also have to send it in to us at our regional center. As we said at our provider advisory committee meeting, our dear friends like Raven and Belinda are the ones that might receive these documents either way, or maybe some of our other vendor coordinators. And so we really, as quickly as possible, are going to be working on not having our service providers have to try to double report this information if it's going to be coming to the same people at our regional center. So please just allow us. We mentioned this yesterday during the PAC meeting, but we've already got our staff established as who are going to be the ones that are responsible for processing when these come in. We already have our email box set up for it. We're really just waiting for DDS to get the emails out to you all. But some of you may be aware, but that there was a delay in the development of the service provider directory because they're really wanting to link this information to the Secretary of State's information that they have, for example. And so they were using LexisNexis to try to pull all of this data from state databases and be able to feed it into here so that it can be more easily validated by chief operating officer at UCP, for example, who's aware of a bunch of different things. And so that is what the delay was. And now it's like, can we just get people to log in, I think, before the end of the fiscal year, I think is probably the most realistic goal. I don't know that even a ton of validation activities can really happen between now and the end of June, but we'll see what happens. That being said, the only things that are able to be changed by you as service providers just unilaterally to the service provider directory, because bear in mind, the regional centers will not have access to the service provider directory, the statewide one. We would have to change, we have to submit information just like anyone else would. So if you make a change in there, the only changes that you're allowed to make without us saying it's okay are your service location phone number, your service location email address, and your designated point of contact. Those of you that are community services specialists know that sometimes that information is not always accurate in our SANDIS system anyways. So you can understand why it might be nice to be able to make sure that we get the information updated. However, we do need to make sure that if it goes into the service provider directory a certain way, that it also goes into our system a certain way. And so I think, again, Michelle, let's talk more about this with like Raymond and Belinda once it gets started, because if it's going to the same people, I don't feel like we need to try to have people be required to do it twice. I understand for other regional centers because that may be how it's set up, but for us, I don't think we need to end up doing that. So we'll talk more about that when we put out specific instructions for you all. And then the things that you can't change as providers that would require us to review it and take a look at it is if you did change your tax ID number, some of you recognize that that might be a revendorization possibly, your organization type. Actually, any of these things may necessitate a change of your actual vendorization itself. So therefore, you don't just get to change it unilaterally. It has to come to a vendor coordinator. And then if a vendor coordinator sees that a licensed day program is putting in a service location change, then that community services specialist is probably going to give you a phone call and find out like, what's going on? Why is that? And so we'll work that out, whether it's the vendor coordinator that reaches out to you specifically or whether or not we need to get the specialists involved, but we would want to follow up with you about any of those major changes that are made to the service provider directory. So, all right, more to come about that, but that is the service provider directory. And as far as the quality incentives, there was no specific, was there any discussion then about the just logging in possibly as being enough to qualify for the incentive?
We did bring that up. We did not get any real response from the department. The statements were something along the lines of, hey, you suggested this last year. And they said, well, it was never promised and nothing's off the table and we wouldn't be able to comment on that. So they were non-committal on to whether or not registration and use of the provider system would help qualify folks for their first year incentive in part or in all. I will also say I was pretty critical of I have a concern too that the system's already underfunded. So any incentive payments that are not paid, where does that money go? It gets reverted back to the general fund. And I said, has the ship sailed? Is there still an opportunity to talk about repurposing unspent funds of QIP payments to reinvestments into the system? Because the real goal of the system is not to pay providers more, because this is not a bonus, this is a cut. You're cutting our rate, not providing a bonus on top of our rate. I said, but the point here is not to pay providers more. The point is to increase quality outcomes. So how are we reinvesting unspent QIP dollars? And is it possible to have that conversation? I got, well, it's possible. I mean, nothing's done, but I didn't get, so those are the two things in terms of, we didn't really get answers in terms of how to access that QIP or what happens after with unspent QIP dollars.
All right, thank you very much for that. I saw Taylor on the front page too, and I see Eric on the front page. So I'm gonna throw it to Helen now to talk about in-home respite procedures.
All right. So by this time, I believe that many of the respite providers, homemaker, and personal assistant providers probably have already received a letter from Ethan about the changes that we're implementing on the procedures and standards for respite, homemaker, and personal assistant. In that letter, we attach the service standards containing all the changes. And we also provided a flyer for the vendor forum, opportunity for vendors to ask questions on April 30th. And today, or maybe tomorrow, you guys will also receive through Sign Now a letter acknowledging receipt and rating review of the standards. I have to say that you do not have to sign it right away. If you have questions and you want to clarify first, we'll do the vendor forum on April 30th, and then you can sign it after. But if you reviewed it now and you're okay with the changes, please go ahead and sign the acknowledgement form. That's all.
Yeah, again, this is we've had multiple discussions about RESPA, and any of you that attend our board meetings are familiar with some public comments as well that we've received related to misunderstandings amongst the regional center as it relates to what is and is not allowable with in-home respite and the utilization of things like EpiPens and nebulizers and things like that. And so we felt like it was important for us from a lot of community feedback that we wanted to ensure that our regional center position was really out there. And so I look forward to any discussions with any of the respite agencies that want to talk about this a little bit further. But in essence, we are making it abundantly clear in writing that it is the service provider's, determination about who they're going to be serving, and there should not be any, concern that the regional center is the one that would be driving, saying that you can't serve people that utilize EpiPens, et cetera. And also offering that opportunity for us to pay for training for anyone that needs it, so that they can provide supports for people that need it, and also any help that we can offer to maybe modify program designs, et cetera. So we want to help out with this. This is something that, we've kind of been working on for a few months, and I know, and we were a little short on our agenda time right now because I wanted to talk about some of the other things, but Michelle Duchesne, we mentioned during our last provider advisory committee meeting last month that as Helen was looking at the respite procedures, we're also going to be looking at things like our adult and employment procedures, and looking at ensuring that service providers are opening up as many opportunities as possible for our clients, and that any limits to eligibility for participating in programs aren't due to a misunderstanding of regional center expectations. And so that's why we're updating this, and that's why we have a vendor forum to talk about it a little bit further, and looking forward to everyone being there for that. Let's see. I do want to do the coordinated career pathways real quickly, Carly, if we can, because I want to talk about I want to plug your upcoming meeting and the fact that we have new service codes.
Yeah.
New service code.
So we have the Coordinated Career Pathways service code that was recently released by DDS. This is service code 956. We are looking at an implementation date of June 1st, pending our vendor service providers for this program. We have already received letters of interest. If you are interested in this service, please feel free to reach out to me. We are taking LOIs already. So this is a service for designed for youth. So any of those who are within 2 years of leaving high school or graduating high school, so that includes 2 years before and 2 years after. Thank you, John. Those who are exiting work activity programs, and those who have recently exited sub-minimum wage programs. So this is really the ultimate goal of this is competitive integrated employment, and to assist clients in obtaining a competitive integrated employment. You can see John here is on the DDS website. All of the information about this service code is here. And then on May 8th, we will be holding an informational session for service providers. That link is on our website. So if you want to come and attend, we got a lot of information on some of the more specifics that are not in those documents that we can share with you. If you are not able to attend, definitely I'm happy to schedule some one-on-one time with you guys, with anyone who is interested as well. There it is, service provider informational session, May 8th at 10 a.m. Any questions about this? John, you're muted.
I was going to say we went through that kind of fast, folks. But again, there's information available on DDS's website that outlines specifically about it, including what the reimbursement rates are. The information for the reimbursement rates are right here for both the Navigator and then the customized employment rates. So just sure that that information is right there. And then, as Carly said, on our events calendar, you can register for it. This is a registration meeting, folks. So please register if you are interested in doing that. We want to make sure that we have interpreters available for people that need interpreters, and we need you to register in advance so we know about that as well. And I'm going to stop sharing that. And then Carly, just real quickly, can we do our little plug for our next couple weeks activities? We do have our DSP collaborative stuff coming up.
Yep. I will just pull that up to share. Oh, you're already doing it. Perfect.
Fantastic. I'm sharing for everyone.
So we have our upcoming Disability Industry Career Expo, or DICE as we call it, our next job fair on April 23rd at 10 a.m. It's 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. This is out in Yuba City at the Sutter One Stop. They've been a great partner. They're going to have a lot of classes going on at the same time, and they're just going to kind of shuffle their students over. So we're going to have a lot of job seekers attending. At this time, we have, I think, about 20 employers who are going to be there. So it's going to be a good event. We have a great space to do it. And if you are interested in attending, if you serve the Yuba City, Marysville, Sutter area, you can find this on our DSP Collaborative website, and you could just click the link or scan the QR code.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. And then and we know next Friday we have the LPA Summit at Sierra as well, right?
Yes. We have an LPA, a local partnership agreement, LPA Summit at Sierra College. So we have the LPAs were created by the CIE Blueprint as a collaborative effort between ALTA, Department of Rehab, and the school districts, as well as some other community partners, just to increase collaboration and ultimately work together to find better ways for the clients that we serve to get competitive integrated employment. So there's several individual LPAs that are, we have them for different counties. So this is the first time that we're bringing all of these LPAs together in a bigger event to collaborate on a much larger scale. This is happening on April 19th up at Sierra College. We're really looking forward to some great outcomes for this event. There will also be a lot of non-LPA members there. Some of our service providers are attending, as well as just some community partners. Like I think we have some members from some AJCCs attending as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Lots of activity going on there. I'm going to jump over to our Alta events calendar, and unfortunately, I don't see that we have the feet walk on here, but since I haven't shared it, I will share just real quickly that our newsletter is available, because I don't believe I shared with folks that our newsletter was available and it's gone out. And so let me just share real quickly our Alta Connections. And, so, oh gosh, I don't know which edition this is. This is the the 10th edition. My goodness, that's 2.5 years. Our Alta Connections newsletter is out. Are you guys seeing that right there on the screen? Very good. So you can see our featured artist, Jeff Fong, on here, and then you can hear our executive director's message. We do always want to plug our events calendar, and we are going to be this weekend over at or tomorrow, excuse me, Maydew Park in Roseville. Alta is actually helping sponsor this feet event, the feet walk that's going on there. So we'll have a booth, and just want to encourage anyone that is going out. We had some awesome events during the month of March. I was able to participate in the awarding of the Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month resolution in Yolo County, with some great Yolo County partners here from In-Home Supportive Services and Public Guardian's Office. And this is Robin Dewey from Team Davis if any of you are familiar with Team Davis or some of those activities that they do, she's a great partner and supporter. And then we also had an opportunity for our staff, and you can see our director and Herman and Michelle Johnson and others from our regional center that were at the Capitol, and we're able to receive a special recognition there because of some support that they gave in writing the statewide statewide proclamation for Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. So additionally, a few weeks ago, Reva was able to have an opportunity to speak for a transition to adulthood symposium at Sierra College. So we're very happy to be able to highlight her work there. We have a shift in the terminology from Autism Awareness to Autism Acceptance Month. And so I appreciate a little article from Mary, our autism specialist, that was able to give us an update on the kind of change in that terminology as well. Again, I always like to plug our events calendar. And so we're always out in the community. You can see pictures of us out in our community right here on this link on our website as well. Our client advisory committee worked on the development of a client's guide to the individual program plan. And so just want to encourage folks to take a look at that. It's something that's been developed in a number of different languages. And so in this client advisory committee corner, you can see some additional information, and shout out to folks from our legal services department, Robin Black from the State Council on Developmental Disabilities, in helping develop that client's guide to individual program plan. We have our staff spotlight for Linda Savage Mitchell, a 16-year veteran at our regional center. Always very nice to be able to highlight that. We talked about our upcoming DSP collaborative job fairs. We have developed new early childhood units at our regional center. I feel like Jennifer Bloom may have mentioned a little bit about it maybe a few months ago, but we've brought on 2 managers. This is primarily looking at lowering caseloads in that transition age after age 3. And so we've got 2 managers, Karen Delgadillo, who's been with us for many, many years as a children's service coordinator, as one of the managers. And then recently, Sarah Burton, who was a manager at San Diego Regional Center, has joined us here locally. She's relocated and has joined our regional center as well. Again, you can see Jeff Fong, our featured artist, and Shauna and I think Tom are the ones that are out there looking for more and more featured artists. And then here's some of the wording from the Yolo County resolution, certainly highlighting the partnerships with Alta California Regional Center and Team Davis, and United Cerebral Palsy got a shout out because they did a nice tour for the folks in Yolo County there, and they really appreciated seeing what UCP does locally in Yolo as well. And then just another flyer for our Disability Career Expo. So again, want to encourage folks to always check out our newsletter and see our features in there. And with that, that brings us past our time, and we're going to do a HCBS update next week, Scott, on our numbers. But we let folks know we are on track and doing just fine with HCBS because of all the hard work. And we will look forward to talking to folks more next week. I'll check the chat and see what else we got. Everyone grab their links out of the chat that they need. We've got quality incentive information in there. We've got the ASL survey in there. We've got Medi Cueva's information that she put in from Pride. Please take an opportunity to go to one of the 3 Pride events, or maybe all 3 of them if you want to. Outside of that, thank you very much, Melinda, for your presentation this morning, and we'll look forward to talking to everyone next week. Take good care.